everyone, my name's Tanya the Ghoul, and before we start the video, I would like to start off with today's sponsor, myself. That's right everyone, I have my first ever sponsor. That sponsor is my Ko-fi page. Head over to my Ko-fi page through the link below in the description, and you could buy a pre-made character that I've made before, or maybe even a commission if I'm up for it. And if you just want to donate just to donate, that would be great too. So please subscribe to my Ko-fi page and donate if you can. Thank you, and now time for the video. Starting off this video like the first video I did of this subject, we are going to start off with the second face of public domain supervillains, that being Mr. Crime, the literal manifestation of crime itself. And this is a pretty interesting character. Like, you could make him like some sort of demon or entity of some sort that influences people into doing crimes and making them into supervillains in a way, you know, like he creates supervillains. And people think that the supervillains are causing the crimes when it's literally him who's like possessing them in a way or influencing them, you know. Next we have the Martians from Mars Attacks 1962, specifically the card game that had the little stories on them. Now, you could use this version, but you cannot use the 90s version by Tim Burton. That one is still heavily copyrighted, but this version you can use free of copyright, since the copyright for the game, the card game, never got its copyright renewed, meaning that you can use the Martians from Mars Attacks as long as you make them distinct enough to be their own thing and don't look too much like the Tim Burton versions. Next off we have Cash, and I know technically this is a parody character and parody law is protected from copyright, but he was in a public domain comic series, so I think he should be able to be here. So his whole thing is, of course, robbing banks. Next we have Badman, not to be mistaken with Batman. He is a parody character as well, and is basically the opposite of Batman moral-wise. He's evil, he's a criminal, he's just an overall jerk. Now, you will have to change his design a bit so you don't get sued by DC, but, you know, if you're able to change the design, then, you know, he's free grabs pretty much. Then you have the Scarlet Skull, who's basically like a Red Skull kind of villain. And, you know, you can have him be like a stand-in for Red Skull if you need to. Next stop, we have Mastermind, who's a electric-themed villain. He can like shoot electricity and stuff, and yeah, he's like a pretty cool generic supervillain type if you need that for your story. Next we have Professor Skin, who's just a very bizarre, goofy looking villain. Like, his whole shtick is that he's an evil inventor, but like, I mainly add him in here because his look is just so bizarre, you know. Next we have Black Satan, who could be like a demonic type villain if you need that. Next off we have Rubber Man, who's basically if Plastic Man never became a superhero and kept being a criminal. You know, that's his whole thing. He's got stretchy powers, he could withstand bullets and stuff, has pretty much the same powers as Plastic Man. Next we got Misery, who's basically the manifestation of evil and sin, and he's like a cloaked mastermind with supernatural powers, so if you need a supernatural type villain, there you go. And then next we have Vulture, who could be a pretty cool stand-in for the Green Goblin, since he pretty much looks the part, you know, and acts the part too, since he's, you know, a little green terrorist. Next off we have Warlord, who's our first communist villain. Yeah, this is a villain from the Cold War era, which we hadn't really got too many of. A lot of the other villains we've been getting are Axis powers or evil incarnate or aliens or demons, but yeah, no, this is our first like Cold War era like Red Scare villain. So That's pretty interesting. Next, we have Men of the Masks, who are a cultist society that could work similarly to the Court of Owls from the Batman comics. Next, we have X-33, who's basically got a Wolfenstein kind of thing going on, where he's a robot built by the Axis powers. And there's a lot of stories that you could do with that, to be honest. So, if you need a bulletproof super weapon type villain, there you go. Next, we got Poker Face, who is a faceless poker-themed villain, and I think you could do a lot of cool stuff with that. Having him have a lair that's a casino, and have, card-themed attacks and such, I think that'd be really cool. Next up, we have Electru, which, not to be mistaken with Electro. Electru is bigger, bulkier, and doesn't have a whole, lightning motif going on. But, he's still got similar powers, and there's a lot of cool stuff you could do with him. Next, we got Gimp, which has a prosthetic leg that he attacks people with. And I think there's a lot of cool stuff you could do with that. You can replace it with, a gun leg, or with a, burning sword, or laser sword, or just some other type of badass weapon, you can make him a much more badass character, Next, we got Elemental, who, if you don't want to use the Claw, he's basically your second best vet. He has similar powers to the Claw, meaning, he can change his size, and he has occult abilities. So, if you want a diet Claw, there you go. Next, we have Goliath the Gladiator, who could be a Galactus-type villain, where he's a kaiju-sized gladiator who eats and destroys buildings and such. And if you wanted, you can make him planet-sized and have him eat planets too. Next, we have the Puzzler, who, as you guessed, is kind of a Riddler-type villain. And if you need a Riddler-type villain in your story, there you go. Next, we got Dr. Death, who's a kind of Crypt Keeper-type villain, where he was the host of a horror anthology series, and you can have him be a supernatural type villain who could break the fourth wall, like the Crypt Keeper. Okay, this one's kind of odd, but bear with me here. You have most of the villain catalog from the Lightbringer comics, and the only reason I say this is Linkara came on to say that he put them in the public domain, or technically Creative Commons, but he credits it as public domain. So if you want to use these characters, you can. I would credit him though, just to make sure. But as far as I know, they are free to use. So, use them as you please. Next, we have Phantoma, a beautiful woman who can turn into a horrible freak, giving her the abilities of the occult itself. Then we have Satana, who's the female devil, essentially. That's what she's credited as, the Lord of the Underworld. Next, we have the Witch Queen, who's a sorceress-type villain. So if you need a sorceress-type villain, there you go. Next off, we have the Bat, who is a Japanese mercenary, and you can use him as a Deathstroke or Peacemaker type villain. Next off, we have Black Death, who is an assassin, and he can work as a Taskmaster type villain. Next off, we have Brickbat, who's a guy who throws bricks at people and wears a bat mask, and that's about it. I just added it because it was funny. And we got the Cat, who is a Japanese samurai type villain, and I think it's cool to have more Japanese representation that isn't a racist stereotype. Next off, we have Crystal, who could work as a Mysterio-type villain if you wanted. And then we have Corpse, who's a cunning, badass, gunslinging, undead villain that could be used as a Solomon Grundy kind of thing. Next off, we have Chief Skullface, which, although kind of problematic, I feel like you could rewrite him to be a more respectful kind of representation of native cultures. And then next off, we have Microface, who was a genius inventor that created a mask that gave him X-ray vision, as well as a distorted voice that he could amplify and use as a weapon. And he could even make ominous phone calls with them too, which predates Scream by a few decades or so. And then next off, we have Nadia Burnett, who is essentially a female equivalent to Two-Face from the Batman comics. And you could use her as such as well, giving her two different personalities. Since in the comic, it says that she had a sort of Jekyll and Hyde thing going on. So you could definitely do that if you wanted. Next off, we have Iron Maiden, and no, not the band, although that would be cool. No. This Iron Maiden is still pretty cool in her own right, you know? She's a badass supervillain mastermind, and I feel like you could use her as a kind of stand-in for Doctor Doom, you know? Since she's got the armor, she's got the attitude, she's got the badass factor, you know? I feel like it'd be perfect for, you know, a Doctor Doom stand-in. And then we have Madame Butterfly, which I think is pretty interesting, using a butterfly as a villain. Like, you don't really see stuff like that, but, you know, this would be perfect to subvert expectations and make a very complex and interesting villain. And then we have the comic version of Snow Queen, who's basically a ice sorceress who can control the weather, you know, control the ice and the snow. And I feel like that would be a pretty cool, interesting idea. Kind of like a stand-in for Mr. Freeze, if you will. And lastly, I want to talk about He-She, which, you know, a little insensitive in nowadays times, but again, I kind of wanted to talk about this one because of just how bizarre it is, like half woman, half man, which kind of already exists with the intersex people as well as someone who's gender fluid, but you know. I'm thinking like you could definitely make this a little bit more unique and distinct. Like the man personality is like the alter ego, and the woman is the like actual one in control or something like that, you know? It's like a Jekyll Hyde kind of thing. Like they have two different personalities. Like I feel like you could do something like that. Like there's just so many interesting ideas you could do, and also find a way to make it respectful enough so it doesn't, you know, make fun of intersex people or gender fluid people. And there we have it. I hope you learned something from this video, and if you wanted me to make any more videos like this, please let me know in the comments below. Were there any villains that you wanted to hear about that are in the public domain? Please let me know, and I'll make sure to make a part 3. But with that being said, I'm Tanya the Ghoul. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.
Now I'm able to pay my cable.